Hey everyone, and welcome to the Happy PharmD podcast. My name is Dr. Alex Barker, coach and founder of the Happy PharmD. And in this session, I will be interviewing Vince Notareschi. I've tried practicing that name and I probably butchered it. I'm sorry, Vince. But in this, we share Vince's story of how he felt overwhelmed by networking. He didn't want to do it, and how he learned to overcome his fear, and how it ultimately landed him a job referral to a dream job as a medical information specialist. There's a lot of gold nuggets in this interview, and you'll learn about a day in the life of a medical information specialist. You'll learn how Vince transitioned into it, how he used the power of networking, and how he discovered even that this is what he wanted to get into. So if you're curious about this career path, this will be a fun and hopefully informative interview for you to listen to. So let's jump into it. Hey, what's up?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. You're a changed man.
I'm a changed man.
You've gone there and back again.
Ooh, good reference. Yeah, and now the boy, he went from rocking back and forth to being very proficient at ending up in different rooms of the house in about 2 weeks. So we are battening down the hatches, my friend. It was quick.
Take away all the metal knives and plug up the electrical sockets and all
Yeah,
that
oh, well,
fun
of
stuff.
course. They're you got to stick your fingers in those. They're interesting. So
Yeah, what goes in there?
baby.
Well, this is your first, right?
He is the first.
Yeah. And did you start the job before or after he was after he was born?
Yeah, so he's 9 months, we'll call him 9 months on the money. And yeah, just started the job 2 months ago. So kind of in the thick of things. Kind of in the thick of things. My search was in the thick of things.
Your search
Um
was, yeah, I remember. I remember. And you originally were with Jackie, right?
so Jackie is the reason why I'm here. But then I'm like, oh, Jackie knows about this. Let me ask. Because she
Yeah.
was one of my professors at Neomed,
Mm,
and she got me in touch with Tamar, who got me in touch with you, and Nazon was my coach.
yeah.
If
And
Jackie chose.
it was Jackie did choose. Yeah, it was a wild ride. So, tell me a little bit about like the career history. So
Yeah.
you graduated, you did a residency,
Mhm.
right? And then what did you get into?
So I got out of residency. I graduated in 18. I did a 1 year residency. And during the summer of 19, my wife and I were from Northeast Ohio, and I got a job a little bit south of Columbus. So we moved down to Columbus, and I start working for a hospital about 30 minutes south of Columbus. My wife is a nurse. She worked up in the city, and I drove south every day. And then um, around February, March of 2020, a few months into that venture, COVID happened. So we got married in February of 2020, and then we come home and the world shuts down. And it just so happens that not only was I the critical care pharmacist, but in February of 2020, our infectious diseases pharmacist, he moved and went back home. So that was kind of on my plate waiting for me when I got back from our honeymoon. So it was trial by fire. ID and critical care. That's what I was into down in Columbus. So that I did that for about 3 years. And as you can imagine, it was very rewarding. It was very interesting. It was fast paced. It was very tiring. It was very tiring during COVID. It was quite the way to start out my career, my journey. And just with the pandemic being a few hours away from home, it felt like I was a few states away from home. And my wife and I, we got a little homesick. We got tired. We got homesick. So we we wanted to come back closer to home. And then I took an ambulatory care position. I said, okay, let's try something different. Let's do patient-centered care. Let's do patient interactions, but let's get out of the hospital for a minute. Let's take a breather. So I was involved for about a year and a half with a venture with Walgreens. There's only 5 of them in the state of Ohio. They call them the Health Corners, and they provide preventative care, MTMs, vaccines, colorectal cancer screenings to patients on Medicaid.
Okay.
So I was involved in that for a while, but in the back of my mind, I always wanted to kind of make it to industry, to work remotely, to have work-life balance, and to affect patient care on a wider scale, outside of just a one-by-one patient interaction, which is very rewarding, but I wanted something a little bit different than that. So that's kind of my career arc over the last few years. It's been there and back again, a ride.
I love Lord of the Rings. Not so much The Hobbit, but yeah, Lord of the Rings was great. You job hopped fairly well, right? Like you got some pretty cool jobs from 1 year residency. You totally switched careers without an ambulatory care residency and did in kind of a community am care type of job.
Yes.
Um, but what, like, why industry other than the remote and work-life balance? Like, was there something else compelling you to seek it?
Yes. What really drew me towards industry, besides those few things, was whether I talked to an MSL through some of my connections or somebody working in medical information, it seemed to me, and I'm finding out now over the last 2 months, that their work could impact patient care at a very wide scale. And I know I just said that, but let me explain. So some of the non-solicited or unsolicited inquiries that you could get could be for P&T for a healthcare system.
Mm,
It could be a physician who is doing their own study with your drug, with your product. Um, it could be for a caregiver at a hospital. It could be a potential patient who's curious. They're not on your medication yet, but they want to learn more. And I found that very impactful. I always felt like my best work was protocols, policies, disseminating information, giving lectures, communicating medical knowledge, and disseminating it through many channels and through many people, too many people. So that's what interested me.
gotcha.
That larger impact.
Mm. When you went through our program, were you able to identify things like your strengths, personality, values, anything like that? And did that shape like how you would look for companies or where you thought you would go within industry?
Yes, coming from my background, being patient-centered is very important to me. I know industry is a business. I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
But if they were able to, if the company was able to demonstrate that, not just say it, but give me concrete examples of how they're, yes, we're a business, yes, but these are the kind of the extra things that we do for our patients, for our clients, for our healthcare providers, then that's something that would soften the blow of the transition
Mm,
and make me feel like I'm not too far from the bedside, even though I am. That would always that patient in the back of your mind, even though you're not seeing them, that would make my transition easier. And that's something I discovered along my way. And then the second thing would be the legacy aspect, leaving something behind, leaving something better, improving a process um, at each stop that you go along in your journey. That's important to me, and I'm able to do that in my current position right now.
mm.
So those are the two things that we identified that were important to me.
I think that's interesting because, I just made a video about this that is there any cons to going into industry? And of course, there's cons. I mean, the company you could go into it could be toxic, right? But in general, one of the regrets I do hear is the lack of like helping patients,
Mhm.
getting that satisfaction of helping someone with a very small problem.
Yeah.
That's a dopamine kick, you know? It can feel
Yes.
good in the moment, but when you're dealing with bigger picture problems, it can be a challenge. So I'm going in my head, I'm going back to we started emailing back and forth. Was it like September or August?
Yeah,
Something like
yeah,
that?
fall-ish. Yeah, I was networking like crazy. It's difficult to break in. It wasn't an easy journey. It wasn't an easy path. Um,
Yeah, I remember
yeah.
reaching out to you, and I'm really glad I did. When I started talking to you, we found a lot of different strategies to try differently, right? And I remember we first were working on, I think, an internship
Yes.
that you were going to try,
Yes.
because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but at the time I remember you being really discouraged about how challenging it was for you to network or get interviews.
Mhm.
Can you like walk me through that? Like what was so discouraging about it? Or, I feel like I know I'm talking out loud a little bit on this one, but I feel like, man, if I would have just interjected, like helping a lot sooner with you, I feel like we could have course corrected a lot sooner,
Mhm.
but that's not what happened. So like what was like discouraging to you about this process?
I, like most pharmacists, hate asking for help. We're supposed to help others. We hate asking for help. And I'm a little introverted, especially with people I don't know. So reaching out, asking for help, and then getting nothing back, getting ghosted or getting turned down, getting a generic response, happens a lot with networking. And that's what happened a lot with networking. That's what happened a lot with me, and it happened over a long period of time, over a year. I reached out to, I think my list finally ended around 80 to 85 people I've reached out to. And some ended up in conversation, some did not. Some went somewhere and some did not, but they all ended without an interview. They all ended without any sort of progression past a certain point. So that was kind of like my ceiling or kind of the wall I needed to break through. How do I get in front of people? How do I get that referral link?
Yeah. Well, if I recall, I don't remember specifics, but I remember we tried some different stuff. Do you
Yes.
remember what changed?
Voice. We tried voice. So instead of just
Oh,
on LinkedIn or via email, hey, this is Vince. I'm really interested in what you're doing. I basically said it out loud on a little snippet, a little 10-second snippet. They weren't perfect. And that helped me get a greater return or a greater percentage of people answering me. And
oh,
not
go
just
ahead.
not just answering me, hi Vince, let's email, but I leveraged that to get them on the phone so that they could hear me and develop that relationship, and we could hear each other. That helped significantly. The phone calls.
Um, I know you're type A. Is there any chance that you recorded your like success percentage, like of responses by chance? I'm just curious.
Overall, yes. With the voice, no.
Okay,
It was
that's okay.
the other thing that got me a higher return was I was connected to somebody and she opened up her um, little black book to me or her phone book to me. And she said, hey, I got her on the phone. So she was comfortable with me. I think she gave me 27 people. Drop my name, introduce yourself, let's go. And again, instead of 5 or 10% people getting on the phone with me, out of that 27, I think I got 6, 7 phone calls out of 27, which was significantly better than I did before. And that is actually how I got in front of Eversana, and that's how I got my position right now. So she did not have a job for me, but she was very open with me about, sure, drop my name, say you're interested, and see where that goes. And having that little name, that little connection, significantly helped as well.
Yeah. Did you write a cover letter when you applied?
Oh yes, multiple.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a couple of drafts. And when did you apply for this job?
I applied for this job at the beginning of December. and I got the connection within the company on the phone. Very lucky to do that. And she enjoyed her conversation with me. And this all happened. I did not know her by December 1st. And by January 1st, I was celebrating a new job. That
Whoa,
fast.
that fast. 4 weeks. That is fast.
Mhm.
And what's the official title?
The official title is Medical Information Specialist at
Ooh.
at Eversana. Yes, it's what I was looking for. I'm really happy. I'm satisfied. There is no perfect job, but I'm in a good place. I'm really in a good place.
Remote?
Remote, 100% remote. I'm looking at my monitors right now. They provided everything for me, and everybody that I met within the company, some come from the business side, some were straight into medical information 20, 25, 30 years ago. Others were clinical, others were in retail. It's really nice to have that mesh of backgrounds. We're all pharmacists, but people are very understanding of my journey. They're very patient with me, and
Mm.
it's a really good place, good culture, and exciting. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, you get to be home with the kiddo, hold down that house. Or do you have a nanny, I'd assume, if or is your wife no longer working?
My wife is taking a little bit of time right now because he is everywhere.
Yeah, and he's 9, so or 9 months. He doesn't understand work, right?
Nope.
Um, and now you're home. So good luck establishing those boundaries. It is challenging as a father. I had to go through it. It's rough.
He understands hold me and pick me up. He loves doing that. Grabbing on my pant leg.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
What's a day in the life like as a medical information specialist?
Yeah. So the main um the main way that we answer inquiries are either via email or via phone. So with the emails, it could be from an MSL in the field, it could be from a healthcare provider, it could be from a patient, it could be from you, it could be from anybody.
Hmm.
I would say for the emails, it's typically healthcare providers, specialists, or MSLs in the field. And then phones, most of the time, but not always, it will be patients or caregivers who have any sort of questions about your products. So the day typically starts with us looking at what inquiries came in overnight via the email queue and then taking phone calls as they come, creating custom response documents or letters for patients or caregivers or healthcare providers. It depends if we have a standard response or a custom response. We would have to um, you basically make a package, a response package for healthcare providers. So it would have a cover letter, a custom response, might have the prescribing information that we send off to them, and that all has to be approved. Or with a patient, it's just live on the phone. We answer their questions, and typically there is not a response package that comes with that, but sometimes there are. So that's kind of
Okay.
a day in life. It depends how intense they want to get with their questioning.
Mm. So you handling like, 5 questions a day, 25 questions a day?
Yes, it depends. It depends. Some days
Okay.
are very slow. Mondays, things accumulate over the weekend. Mondays tend to be a little bit um, busier. And it also depends if there's a new product launch or a new indication for a product, then you will get an uptick in inquiries.
Mm. It sounds very much like, the pharmacist help desk,
Mhm.
just without any dispensing or handling of medications. Like you're just an information hub,
Yes.
which it's in the title, so that makes sense.
Yes. I think that any pharmacist that has a few years experience in retail or in clinical, they are tailor-made for this job. The
Mm,
documentation is a little bit different. There are more rules and regulations because we are sending our reports, like if there is an adverse event to the FDA, so that's a kind of regulated. But as far as answering medical questions from doctors and patients, a lot of pharmacists have experience doing that, and it's
mm.
quite similar.
If you could go back in time, just, I mean, like November, October, when you were feeling the stress, you were hanging out with me, you were like, oh man,
Yeah.
this stinks, because I remember that attitude. I remember you like, I'm in it to win it, but this stinks.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time to talk to that Vince, what do you wish you could tell him, knowing what you know now?
It's frustrating. Yes. But you have to continue forward because you're not going to find your path, or you're not going to find that one link or that one connection without moving forward.
Mm,
Move forward. You're allowed to be frustrated, but you need to move forward. You need to do something constructive with your frustration. That's what I would tell him.
Vince, I feel like if I can figure out how to help the introverted pharmacist have fun in this process, it'll go so much easier because it doesn't have to be frustrating, but so
Mhm.
many people are like, this stinks, which
Yeah.
is a perspective problem, right? Because, you know, all of those people that you messaged, and beating yourself up about how they're not responding to you, the 95 people or whatever,
Mhm.
like they're busy. You know what I mean? Like, how many messages or emails do you get that you don't respond to? Like, I get a lot, and I
Mhm.
don't respond to everyone. I'm busy. Um, Out of curiosity, did you follow up with those people as well, or did you just send like one message out?
When they didn't respond,
Hmm.
I I followed what I learned in your course. I would do 2 to 3. And
Follow-ups.
sometimes if it was a follow-up, I would combine what you suggest for the third outreach and the second outreach. I would kind of combine them into one. Uh,
Mm.
but 2 to 3 for everybody, every time. Yes.
Um, what did you think of the courses? We have a lot of material and it
Yeah.
keeps growing, and I keep getting told it's too much, and yet I keep creating more because people are like, "Oh, I want more information
Yeah.
about career paths or this or that or the other thing."
The two most helpful pieces for sure for me were the career paths, learning what else is out there, and networking. I was terrified to network. I was terrified of rejection. I was terrified of annoying people. I was terrified that my name would get out to a company. Don't answer this kid. He's been pestering me. Um,
We're going to
Networking for
blacklist
sure.
them.
Yeah. Networking. So it's hard to say to taper something down because I think each client needs or wants something different in your courses. And I went through it all, but I watched and worked on networking the hardest for sure.
I'm thinking about rebranding networking to something different because y- like I'll say networking in a group, of pharmacists, and with some of them, like I can see their language and their bodies change. Like, oh, I don't want to do this. So and I think I hint at this in the course, but I think I could be much thicker. And it's to say that I think if you could just have more curious conversations with people, like this whole thing would be that much easier. Like
Mhm.
if you just get curious about people, um, how did you build that specialty? How did you get into this? What's it
Mhm.
like? What do you love about it? Conversations can be that much easier. And really, that's what networking should be. It's not just like shaking hands, kissing babies, giving out business cards. That stuff doesn't work. Um, it sounds like your conversations were filled with curiosity, but a little bit of desperation too. Like, I need out.
You're so interesting. Tell me more. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. And some folks they love to talk about themselves, some they don't, but that genuine, playful curiosity instead of give me a job. How'd you do it? And those were interesting conversations. Some people I talked to, they were very deliberate about their career paths, and others it's, oh yeah, I'm a vice president now. I don't know. I just kind of fell into this, and yeah, I don't know, but I love it.
Have you ever heard of the Peter principle?
Yes.
Man, I just fell into that. Um, that's interesting. Do you feel like in your conversations with people, like you were able to like just be curious with them and try to take the beginner approach
On
when you were talking
email
with people
or
and networking? Sorry.
yeah, on email or LinkedIn Messenger, that's harder to do,
Mm,
being playful or curious to get that across, right?
yeah,
And you can do that with your word choice, but as far as your intonation, right, it's impossible on the
unless you
phone
record yourself.
unless you record yourself. On the phone, that's a lot easier to
Yeah,
come
it
off as
is.
being genuinely curious, for sure.
Trying to think of what other questions I have for you. What feedback do you have for me?
Once I got a hold of you, I felt that you were very helpful. And I understand that you are very busy and have a lot of clients, but it was nice. It was nice having those one-on-one conversations with you. You are confidence inspiring. So that kind of gave me a little boost to just keep networking, keep going through the process. That was very comforting.
So basically, I need to teach some sort of philosophy class as the entry level for this whole program.
You're gonna
One,
fail,
you got to
and
give up
it's okay.
perfectionism. Yeah, failing is the way forward.
Mhm.
You have to practice at failing. Here's how you
Mhm.
practice at it. It's safe. One of the
Mhm.
things we started doing was making people in the program talk to each other. And that's actually shown a lot of success already. Like people are like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not alone.
Because everything on social media is the highlights, and I think
Yeah,
when
here's what's
people,
amazing.
yeah, and that over and over and over again, it gets in your head, and you had straight A's over and over and over again. You don't hear people generally say, I applied to 180 jobs. I got 3 interviews out of that 180. That's
Yeah.
all I got. But it was worth it. I'm really happy now. But it was tough. It was
Mm,
tough.
yeah. I'm always looking to better communicate what is coaching. So knowing what you know now about it, how would you describe what coaching is?
Mm. In some of I will answer the question. In some of my conversations, I think different coaches approach that in a different way. What is coaching? Coaching could be modeling, reaching out to people, modeling how to set up your CV, modeling. It could be modeling how to fail. Coaching could be supportive in providing names for you or connections for you to reach out to. Could be teaching, just didactic. This is how we're going to do it. A, B, C, D. Now I want, summarize what we just learned here today. So it's instruction, but it could be modeling, it could be teaching, providing connections, supportive, all encompassing. And I think each client of yours is going to need a different ratio of those things, and I think each coach is going to provide a different ratio of those things.
Yeah.
But I think that's how I would describe it.
This is interesting. Yeah. It has to be
Cheerleader.
personalized.
There's some cheerleading involved for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just rah rah, go Vince, go. There's
Mm-hmm.
some of that. That's fine. I like that.
I like to think that there's a lot of reframing, you know. Um, we tend to get narrow-minded, narrow-focused.
Mhm.
Um, so like even just how you worded like the failures of networking to get to where you are, right? So even that sentence itself could be reframed. So, you know, you did three things successfully, right? You learned how to get interviews through networking, right? That's a reframe of how
Mhm.
you saw that journey in that process. You learned what works. And hopefully, like when you're ready for growing or transforming or networking or whatever that next stage of your career looks like for you, you know how to do that again. It's a skill that you'd never have to really try to pick up again or have to relearn how to do, right? Um, uh, I'd like to ask what do you think the future of your career is? This is something I don't ask enough about with people.
Okay.
I don't, you know, I don't want to presume, and I'm not asking you to say like, oh, I'm going to be forever Eversana, or oh, I'm going to move next year. I'm not looking for that kind of thing. It's more like, what else do you want to do with your work? What's a dream for you, or is this the dream?
If I was posed with that question 4 or 5 years ago, knee deep in residency, clinical career, I would tell you, I want to get board certified in this, and I want to work in this ICU, or I want to do that. I was so dead set. I think that is kind of the mindset one needs to have when they're going through something intensive like that. But it's narrow. It's very narrow. I never thought I would work in an ambulatory care job for inner city patients, low income patients. I never thought that I would work for industry 5 years ago in any capacity. So it's kind of freeing to say, what do I want to do in the future? Larger impact. I would love to work with people, maybe a manager to coach people, to help people within the industry so that they can in turn have their impact, and it's all downstream having a larger impact. But I think the crux of my answer is I don't know, and that's a beautiful thing.
You get to discover it.
I am open to multiple pathways.
Mm. You get to discover it, and it sounds like you want to climb, the ladder and make a bigger impact.
I do. I truly believe in leaving somewhere better than you found it. I am very proud of the work that I've done at my other institutions, some of the protocols, policies, procedures that they're still using. That makes me very happy that I'm no longer in those doors, and I'm still helping people.
Mm,
And that will be nice to do, or that would be a driving force where my career takes me.
nice. I know you have to go here in a couple of minutes, so I could probably keep talking to you and asking you questions, but um, anything else you want to say about the Happy PharmD coaching, your journey, just any other thoughts that maybe I missed?
One of the things that I kept going back to with every missed opportunity or failure with networking was, well, it's frustrating, but if you stop now, if you sit down now, nobody is going to come back and offer you a job, or that's a low likelihood. You need to keep moving forward. You need to get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. And when you dust yourself off dozens and dozens of times, it's hard. But the other option is staying down there on the floor and not dusting yourself off and not doing anything with what you learned, not learning from your failure, not learning from the process, and not getting to where you want to go.
Mm,
Um,
awesome.
Shawshank Redemption, either get busy living or get busy dying.
And escape your prison.
Escape your prison, either get busy living or get busy dying. And with the Happy PharmD, I would just say, from somebody coming from a very extremely focused clinical background, come in with no expectations to the Happy PharmD and have an open mind and let the process happen. And that way it will be the most helpful.
Wise words, truer words have never been said. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, Vince. You're welcome to chill and hang out as much as you want in the community, which I think you're a part of. If you ever want to get involved in like job referrals or stuff, let me know. You're in a position that I know a lot of people are interested in. but I also don't want to overtax you with like networking. Stay in the loop. Let me know if I can help you out with anything or introduce you to someone.
I appreciate that. I'm a big believer in paying it forward. I will help with referrals, but let me get my feet wet a few more months, and I
Oh
will.
yeah.
And we will stay in touch, and I will text you
What
and
yeah, what
get
does
this
the
back.
guy with 2 months in know about this?
Yeah, yeah. I will. Yeah, I'm a big believer in pay it forward. Yes,
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. Um, well, let me know if anything comes up and stay in touch.
I will.
Awesome. All right, Vince, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. I'd appreciate it if you left a like or comment. Let me know what other questions you wish I would have asked Vince. And if you're curious about getting into this career path, we would love to help you transition. You can do so by talking with one of our career advisors who will do an assessment of your career and see, hey, can you make this transition? Is it possible? And some steps to take in that direction. We'll also share our coaching program, how we work with people, how we work with them one-on-one, and we help them stand out from the marketplace and get jobs that they love. Thanks for watching this episode, and until I see you in the next one, take care.